Prince Harry is set to return to London next week, not under celebratory circumstances, not for ceremonial duties, and not for any attempt to reclaim royal privilege, but to attend court in a deeply serious legal battle that has been years in the making. On January 19th, the Duke of Sussex will appear in person for the latest hearing in his case against Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. This case is not about headlines or revenge. It is about accountability, privacy, and confronting a media culture that Harry has long argued operated with impunity while causing profound harm to him and his family. For Harry, this return to the United Kingdom is symbolic in ways the palace would rather not acknowledge. It represents a man coming back not to submit, but to stand firm. It represents someone who has chosen the rule of law over palace silence and transparency over backroom briefings. Yet despite the significance of the moment, the response from the monarchy, particularly from his father, King Charles, has been conspicuously, deliberately cold. There will be no meeting between father and son, no quiet reconciliation, no gesture, however small, that might signal humanity over hierarchy. Instead, King Charles will be in Scotland on the very day Harry is in London, attending an engagement at the Palace of Holyrood House. The scheduling ensures that even the possibility of a face-to-face is removed from the equation. This is not accidental. This is choreography. The palace would no doubt argue that duty comes first, that engagements are planned long in advance, and that there is nothing unusual about senior royals being in different parts of the country. But that explanation collapses under even minimal scrutiny. The royal diary is not a casual calendar. It is a tightly controlled instrument of messaging and symbolism. When senior royals wish to appear united, they do. When they wish to signal distance, they do that too quietly, but unmistakably. Adding to the calculated distance, Prince William and Kate Middleton will also be far from London during Harry's court appearance. They are scheduled to be in Scotland, visiting the National Curling Academy in Stirling, and later a hand-weaving studio known as Radical Weavers, where they will explore Scottish tartan heritage and meet Olympic and Paralympic athletes ahead of the Winter Games. These engagements are being presented as wholesome, forward-looking, and entirely routine. But their timing, again, is telling. At a moment when Harry is confronting the same tabloid machinery that has relentlessly targeted him for decades, the rest of the senior royal family has chosen visibility elsewhere. The message is subtle but clear. Harry's fight is his alone. The institution will not stand beside him, even when the issue at hand, media intrusion and abuse, has affected the entire family for generations. This is where the narrative often becomes distorted by commentators who insist on framing the situation as mutual stubbornness or equal blame. Royal experts are quick to speak of a rift that continues to simmer, of a battle royale between brothers, as though this were some kind of aristocratic soap opera. But that framing obscures the power imbalance at the heart of this story. One side controls the institution, the access, and the briefing machine. The other does not. Prince Harry has not been speaking anonymously. He has not been leaking through intermediaries. When he has spoken, he has done so openly, attaching his name and his face to his words. That alone sets him apart from the palace culture he left behind. Yet he is routinely portrayed as the aggressor, while those who allow negative narratives to flourish, unchallenged, are framed as dignified and restrained. The claim that trust is broken because Harry gave interviews ignores the reality that trust was eroded long before he ever spoke publicly. Trust erodes when a family member is left unprotected. Trust erodes when racist or dehumanizing coverage goes unanswered. Trust erodes when silence is mistaken for loyalty, and suffering is treated as the price of belonging. The decision by King Charles to keep his distance during this visit reflects a deeper discomfort, not just with Harry, but with what Harry represents. Harry has challenged the unwritten contract between palace and press. He has questioned a system that trades access for favourable coverage and sacrifices individuals for institutional stability. By taking associated newspapers to court, Harry is not merely defending himself. He is exposing practices many would prefer remain hidden. Sources have suggested that King Charles prefers to stay entirely clear of court proceedings. On the surface, this may sound like prudence. In reality, it looks like avoidance. The king is not being asked to comment publicly or interfere legally. He is being asked implicitly, symbolically, to acknowledge his son as a human being facing a significant moment. That acknowledgement has not come. What makes this coldness especially striking is the contrast between public rhetoric and private action. The monarchy often speaks of family, unity and continuity. Yet, when faced with a moment that demands empathy rather than optics, the response is distance. The institution closes ranks, not around the individual, but around its own comfort. Meghan Markle's absence from London has not prevented her from being woven into the subtext of every discussion. Even when she is silent, she is treated as the unspoken cause of disruption. This persistent framing reveals far more about the institution than it does about Meghan. She has become a symbol onto which anxieties about change, independence and loss of control are projected. Meghan did not force Harry to see the system differently. She did not invent the tabloid cruelty he endured as a child. What she did was refuse to accept it as normal, and in doing so she exposed how normalized that cruelty had become. Harry's choice to stand with his wife rather than submit to the institution's expectations is at its core what this estrangement is really about. Despite the coldness surrounding this visit, speculation continues that Harry and Meghan may return later in the year for a year to go Invictus Games event, potentially involving King Charles. The contrast is impossible to ignore. Public unity may be welcomed when it serves the brand, when it aligns with global goodwill and positive optics. Private solidarity, however, appears negotiable. The Invictus Games themselves stand as a powerful counterpoint to the royal response. Founded by Harry, the Games emphasised resilience, service and rehabilitation for wounded veterans. They are grounded in action, not symbolism. They demonstrate Harry's commitment to causes larger than himself, even as he faces personal and familial challenges. Harry's court appearance may ultimately yield legal outcomes that take time to unfold, but symbolically his presence in that courtroom already speaks volumes. It speaks to a refusal to be intimidated. It speaks to a willingness to confront powerful institutions on equal footing. And it speaks to a clarity of purpose that does not depend on royal approval. As Harry walks into court next week, he will do so without royal fanfare, without visible family support, and without the safety net of institutional backing. Yet he will also walk in with something far more valuable: autonomy. He answers to his conscience, not to palace courtiers or media barons. That independence is precisely what unsettles those who prefer the old order. The cold treatment, reportedly planned by King Charles, is not just a personal slight, it is a statement. It suggests that loyalty to the institution still outweighs loyalty to the individual. It suggests that discomfort with scrutiny outweighs the instinct to protect one's own child. And in making that choice, the monarchy risks reinforcing the very criticisms it wishes to silence. History has a way of re-evaluating moments like this. What appears today as restraint may tomorrow be seen as failure. What is framed now as dignity may later be understood as distance. And what is dismissed as inconvenient truth may eventually be recognized as necessary courage. Prince Harry's return to London is not about reconciliation on someone else's terms. It is about standing firm in his own. It is about confronting the forces that shaped his life and choosing a different path forward. The cold shoulder he receives does not diminish him. It clarifies the divide. If you believe that accountability matters more than appearances, if you support Prince Harry and Meghan Markle standing against distortion and intimidation, and if you value platforms that challenge one-sided narratives, then your support makes a difference. Consider supporting this channel through Super Thanks, subscribe to Sussex Insights, and help ensure that these conversations continue. Silence protects power, but informed voices reshape the story, and history is always listening.